All right, welcome back, guys. We're at day 2. We are going to work on this page right here. So open up your packet to this page or have your printed copy of this. So this is kind of a fun way to put this. So it says the function y equals f of x with the domain of -3 is less than or equal to x or less than or equal to 3 is provided. So here is that function. Graph each of the following transformations, adjust the domain where necessary, and state that the domain and range for each transformation. Now, hopefully you guys are recognizing that this is actually f of x equals the absolute value of x, or y equals the absolute value of x. This is that function. Now, why is it using this crazy notation like this? Why is it using this notation? Is it wants you to recognize that this is the absolute value parent function. And it's saying when you input the absolute value parent function in for here, what happens? Okay, so you're substituting in the absolute value parent function. Then as these change, what this is saying is that you need to keep in mind that no matter what function it might be, if it was the quadratic function, if it was the cubic function, if it was the square root function, no matter what function it is, it would be similar in adjustments. So that the adjustments would still be the same no matter what. So let's look and see how that works. So we've got y equals the absolute value function of x minus 2. So this is going to be y equals x minus 2. Okay? That's the function that we're dealing with. Now, as we talked about, there's a couple of different ways to do this. You can create a table. You can go from the equation to the table. And then you'll say, well, Ms. LaBelle, what numbers do I plug in? You can plug in whatever numbers you want. Usually what I'll try and do is look and see what this is. And I may say, okay, I'm going to go -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and see what I can figure out from that. So if x is -2, I'm going to have -4 minus 2 is -6. Absolute value of -6 is +6. If x is -3, -3 minus 2 is -5. Absolute value of -5 is +5. -2 minus 2 is -4. Absolute value is +4. -1 minus 2 is -3. Absolute value is +3. 0 minus 2, absolute value of -2 is +2. 1 minus 2 is -1, absolute value is +1. 2 minus 2 is 0. 3 minus 2 is 1. Absolute value of 1 is 1. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So this gives me a good idea of where it is, but you have to keep in mind my domain, is only from here to here. I didn't need to do those 4s because my domain is they only care about the numbers from -3 to +3. So since that is my domain, I don't have to worry about this or this. I'm only worrying about these numbers right here and graphing that and seeing what happens. And keep in mind where that point is. So -3 to +5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -2 to 4. -1 to 3. 0, 2. 1, 1, right? 1, 1. 2, 0. And 3, 1. So my graph now goes from looking like a V to a backwards check mark because it's only including that part of it because of where the domain is. And keep in mind that this point, this vertex point, scooched over 2. It went from here over 2. So that's kind of fun. My domain is still going to be -3, +3. My range, though, has changed from, in this one, my domain was -3 to +3, and my range going from bottom to top is going to be 0 to 3. And then writing that in interval notation, it would look like this. All right, but what is my domain is still -3 to +3, but my range is now 0, and it goes all the way up to 5. You see that? All right, what about here now? Okay, so I still have my function as y equals, and I'm going to put my absolute value x plus 1 there, and I'm going to create a table. Stop the video and go ahead and create a table so that I don't take up so much of your time. And just keep in mind that you're going where your domain is only going to be, let's put up here, -3 to +3. So just go from -3 to +3 and figure out what your y is and graph it. Stop the video now. So hopefully you got this table, and now you've got a frontward check mark. And so my range is going to be from bottom, starting at 0, to top, which would include 4. And I accidentally put these in parentheses. They need to be in brackets. So there you go. All right, so hopefully you're getting this. Now what about this last one, or this number 3? Let's do the same thing, going into a table. What is our domain is just -3 to +3. Go ahead, create your table, figure out. Now, keep in mind, this is actually going to be y equals the absolute value of x minus 1. Why am I not including this -1 in the absolute value signal like I did up here? What do you guys notice between this and this? If you notice, the parentheses are around my function, and I only include what's inside those parentheses. This one included the -2, so I included it in here. This one does not include the -2, so I did not include it in here. And let's see what happens to this graph. So here's my table. You'll notice -3, the absolute value of -3 is +3 minus 1 is going to give me 2. And you'll notice that what happened to my graph is basically this exact same graph up here, except for it just, the vertex went from the origin down 1. Okay, and let's do this last one. So pause the video, do this last graph, plugging in y equals the absolute value of x plus 2, and using your restricted domain of -3 to +3. And seeing what, oh, we did not find what the range is. So here the range, the domain is -3 to +3. And the range here is from the very bottom, that's going to be -1. And it's going to go up to +2. So notice how that changes. All right, stop the video and try and do number 4. All right, so here you're going to notice that this graph has not moved left or right, but it has moved up 2. So you can see that the vertex went from here up 2, went up 2 here. This one went down 1. This one went to the right, and this one went to the left. So hopefully you're getting this. Here's your domain and your range. All right, flip to the back, and here is the back of the page. Go ahead and try and do, well, we'll talk about what these are. So this function here, this is going to be a negative of the function. So you're going to basically have y equals negative. Keep in mind your original function is here. So this is y equals the absolute value of x. That is your function right there. Okay? So now what this is saying is negative, right? This is a negative absolute value of x. Okay? So go ahead and do your table. We're still using the same domain, -3 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 3. And figuring out what the range is. So this table is always going to look like this. This here is going to be, what is your function going to be here? What do you think? It's inside the parentheses, so it would be y equals the absolute value of 2x. And you'd go ahead and create your table using this equation. This would be y equals the absolute value of 1/2 x. Now this here is going to be y equals 2 times the absolute value of x, because the 2 is outside the function. This is still your function right up here. Oops. The absolute value. 2 is outside the function. And similar to here, this is going to be y equals 1/2 absolute value of x. So go ahead and see if you can work these out. When you come back, I'm going to have this all filled out for you to look at. So I think you'll be better off if you try and do it on your own. All right, guys, so hopefully yours looks very similar to mine. Make sure you understand what is happening. Keep in mind that your table could have looked like where you've got your x on this side, and this is actually 2f of x on that side. Because that's the same, right? This is 2f of x. All right. Make sure you understand that. Okay, guys, hope that this is helpful. Talk to you soon.